So, this lesson kind of covers some of the stuff we did last week. So some of it may sound like a little bit of a repeat, but we'll go for that. And I wish Mary was here. She was the one I was going to pick on. But anyway, we'll get started. We're going to be talking about Mary and Magdalene, the Samaritan woman, and then Mary and Martha. So we got some good women to talk about this. Before I start though, I meant to ask, anybody have anything they want to share about last week or anything up to this point in all the lessons? Okay. So now, we're going to talk a little bit about Jesus and how he held women, I almost said in contempt, how he esteemed women and how he loved women as much as he loved men, and the purpose and how he, like I said last week, how he turned things right side up. Okay, we'll go a little bit more about that. Of course, the first one we're going to talk about is Mary Magdalene. And in Luke chapter 8, verses 1 through 3, if somebody could read that, that would be great. You may.
Now it came to pass afterward that he went through every city and village, preaching and bringing the glad tidings of the kingdom of God. And there were 12 were with him. And a certain woman who had been healed of evil spirits and infirmities, Mary, called Magdalene, out of whom had come 7 demons. And Joanna, the wife of Herod's steward, and Susanna, and many others who provided for him from their substance.
And of course, this is a little bit about what, we read this last week. Mary Magdalene is mentioned several times in the New Testament. And each time, well, I don't know each time, but she had the 7 demons cast out of her. That's what Jesus did for her, okay? Now, I used to get confused between Mary Magdalene and the Samaritan woman at the well. Just confusion there. Because it sounded like their stories were about the same, but they were different. Did anybody else ever get confused about these two? Maybe being one and the same, or was that just me? That's just me. Okay.
There's several Marys, so there's Mary Martha, and it can get a little confusing.
Yeah, it does. It does. But I want to point out, this is a historical note, okay? I love history, I really do. The Bible never describes Mary Magdalene as a prostitute. So why do we commonly refer to her as one? Does anybody know why? You remember when I said at the beginning that we need to look at the word and reading like it's the first time we've ever read it. Then block out all the traditions, all the, this is what, you remember talking about that. So that's what this is going to be focused on today, is reading it from a different perspective and not assuming. So the short answer, and why we believe, or why we were persuaded to think that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute, was because a church tradition that was established in 591 CE due to Pope Gregory. Okay? He's the one that said Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. So for years, that's what, everybody has thought. And you know as well as I do, when something starts, it's hard for it to come to an end, if it ever comes to an end. Right. So for years and years and years and years, thousands of years, we've been led to believe she was a prostitute. But the Catholic Church, after more than 1,400 years, reverted, if you will, and restored Mary Magdalene to one who was a loyal follower of Jesus. So, fast forward from Pope Gregory to 1,400 years, I don't know what year we're talking about, but even the Catholic Church said, wait a minute, this Pope was wrong in his misunderstanding, because the Bible don't say it. I mean, he's not, I don't want to say that he was wrong, but the Bible does not state it, so it's misleading information. We don't know if it's true or not. Correct? So, just want to point that out. So, lots of times, we base our opinions or on things that's just not there. Everybody agree? So, I don't know what Mary was, except that she was possessed with 7 demons. And Jesus rescued her or healed her from that. And so she became a loyal follower, a disciple to Jesus. And we remember from last week, she was the first one to see Jesus. And he told her, if you remember correctly, to go tell his apostles. So he trusted her enough, with that message, and to go forward and share that. So, just something to think about. And I mean, you can always do research if you know what you like or whatever, but never, and I read through, I don't know that I read every place, but never did I read where she was a prostitute. So, let's take that assumption away and just consider her Mary Magdalene, who was possessed with 7 demons, and then Jesus healed her, and she became a faithful disciple to Christ. Any questions? Any comments? No? Okay, next. and this is a little bit, I think that's what a lot about today is about, is the assumption that we always give or take. So, now we're going to talk about the Samaritan woman that Jesus met at the well. So, they were going, where was it they were going from? I'm going to read this. And it'll. In Jesus' time, the hostility between Jews and Samaritans ran deep. So much so that many Jews hated Samaritans even more than they despised pure Gentiles. I guess a perfect example of that would be the story of the Good Samaritan. No, did I say that right? Who helped the man on the street. Y'all remember that story? Okay. So that would be a perfect example. The root of this animosity lay in the Samaritans' mixed ancestry. Centuries earlier, the northern kingdom of Israel had been conquered, and many Israelites intermarried with foreign settlers. This caused tension that affected everyday life and even travel. This is what I was trying to get to, this statement here. The most direct route from Jerusalem to Galilee was straight through Samaria. But many Jews were so opposed to the Samaritans that they preferred to take a longer route around Samaria to get to Galilee from Jerusalem. So they avoided the Samaritans at all expense, at all costs, even an extra day of travel. So travel there then was nothing like what we have now, right? So that's how thick, if you will, or how big the differences were, the animosity. I mean, that is the best word I think to describe it. However, Jesus said he must go through Samaria. He must go through Samaria. You think he knew why he must go through Samaria?
I'm sure he did.
I'm sure he did. I think so. And what happens because he done this is just amazing and remarkable, you know. And so the woman at the well, we will start in, where do I want to start at? John chapter 4. Starting at verse 7. Can't hardly see this morning. So here Jesus is at the well. Disciples, of course, have gone to do whatever their thing was to do. A woman of Samaria came to draw water. Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink," for his disciples had gone away into the city to buy food. Then the woman of Samaria said to him, "How is it that you, being a Jew, ask a drink from me, a Samaritan woman? For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans." Okay, we knew that. They tried to avoid Samaritans. We also, last week, talked about how women were not allowed to talk to rabbis, and they would not, it was looked down upon, and how rabbis didn't teach or share with them. Remember that? You know, remember talking about that last week. So, here he is again, talking to a woman. Okay? Jesus answered and said to her, if you knew the gift of God, and who it is who says to you, "Give me a drink," you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. Then the Samaritan woman says to Jesus, "You have nothing to draw with, the well is deep. Well, where then do you get that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as well as his sons and his livestock?" Jesus answered and said to her, "Whoever drinks of this water will thirst again. But whoever drinks of this living water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water that I shall give him will become in him a fountain of water, springing up into everlasting life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water, that I may not thirst, nor come here to draw." I wonder what she was thinking when Jesus said that to her. "Sir, give me this water." Do you think she meant the physical water?
I think so.
You think so? Yeah. That I may not thirst, nor come here to draw. It got her interest. Did not, what he said got her interest. Jesus said to her, "Go call your husband and come here." The woman answered and said, I have no husband. Then Jesus said to her, You have well said, I have no husband. For you have had 5 husbands. The one whom you now have is not your husband, and that you spoke truly. Why do you think she had, what was it? 5 husbands. Money? Naomi said, at least you had an answer. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. Why? I mean, just talk about it for me, Nick. Why do you think she had 5 husbands? Not a trick question. I mean, what have we thought?
We've always perceived that it's been just 5 different men altogether,
Okay.
not knowing why. I'll
What-
let some other people, I studied last night, so I know where you're going with this, so.
Anybody else? I mean, and I'm not trying to put you ladies on the spot. I'm just trying
Maybe
to.
they wouldn't work.
Well,
Maybe she got rid of them because they wouldn't
That
work.
wouldn't work. No, what have we thought though? What have we thought?
I mean, it's led to believe that she's a prostitute, so that's the path that everybody just assumed. That's why she was going from man to man.
Okay, that's exactly what I thought. Anybody else? I'm not trying to correct. I'm just trying to get some feedback here. Anybody else? What did? I always wondered. I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't want to go there yet. But here again is another woman who's through the years, because she had 5 husbands, has been thought to be a sinful woman, living out in sin, doing her thing, getting her feel and thrills and blah, 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 right? And that's what we've all thought. Now, I often wondered, because, I do that sometimes, I often wondered, but no, I'm still getting ahead of myself. I can't do that. So, we've always been led to believe that because she had 5 husbands, that she was not a good woman. Let's go back a little bit to Tamar. Remember the story on her? She had 3 husbands. Remember the 2 brothers? And then Judah? She had 3. It was not uncommon, like we talked about before, that there was the Levirate law and the custom when a man died, a husband, whatever, that the wife was given to the next brother in line and so forth. So maybe she was just unfortunate and had a bunch of men down her. I don't know. I guess it's been insinuated that she, and I thought she's got divorce after divorce after divorce, But that's not what the Bible says. It just said she had 5 husbands. We don't know why she had 5 husbands.
Of course, I think the way Jesus says it is
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he's like, you had 5 husbands,
And the one you were living with now.
and the one you got now is not your husband. So that automatically kind of,
Yeah. And I did that. I mean, I'm not, but the Bible doesn't say that directly. It's just something else to think about, to consider.
but here's the flip side of that. If it had been a man, he said, you had 5 wives, and the woman you've got now is not your wife. The perspective of that would be completely opposite.
Yes.
We wouldn't have thought bad of that man, but because the way women are perceived, we automatically think bad of her.
Everybody agree? Everybody think? Yeah. And I'm not trying to change what has been, what's being said in the Bible. It's just, another way of looking at things. It might not be, so, and this might have been a woman who was clearly searching for something to fill her. That, hence the next verse.
Can I further with that? So, she says in here in the book that maybe the man she's living with is her brother. Maybe. Doesn't say anywhere, but it could possibly be. But it also says that it was late in the day. She wanted to go draw her water when nobody else was there. Coming from somebody who has grieved before, horrible grief. I know, I get it. I know she didn't want to go to the well when other people were there, not because she was labeled as a whore, or if she was, or not, or prostitute, okay. But because she didn't want to be around people, and then go, oh, I'm so sorry about your husbands. And because that's the last thing you want to hear from somebody who's never experienced it. So, I get it. I can see why she would go at the late hours and so on.
I mean, we've all tried to avoid people at some point in our life. So that could be. Well, I mean, we have. We do. And thank you, because I meant to say something about that and I've completely forgot. But so there could even be a different reason. I mean, it's always been said she went to the well alone because she was a sinful woman and nobody wanted to be in her presence or blah, all that. That's all it's. But maybe because the heart had been broken, maybe because she had lost so much or had so many husbands, she was, there was room there for grief and room there for just not wanting to be around people in general. So, thank you, Jamie. I forgot to mention that. I'm glad you mentioned that. Again, not trying to, but that's a different way to look at it, maybe.
Maybe she just has really bad taste in men.
Well, and that too. I mean, there's so many possibilities. We could go here and go with this. And like Patty said, if it was a man who had 5 wives, it'd be like, oh, okay, well, bless his heart, he needs to find the right one. Well, with women, it's like, oh, she's a prostitute, she's a sinner. Now, that's Satan hating women thing. So, but the woman said to him, Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, and you Jews say that in Jerusalem is the place where one ought to worship. Y'all notice something here? Similar to the other women we've studied? She knew. She knew. I don't know that she knew the whole word, but she knew. She knew about the coming of the Messiah. She knew, and I'm sure she knew her history and the land, and she knew. And I've often, when I've read this before, I've questioned, and I've noticed that, and I thought, she knew something about him. She knew something. But what that was, I don't know, but she knew something. And that's funny because I always thought of that, but then always looking at the wrong side or the bad side instead of the good side, instead of paying attention to what she didn't know and how she, how she addressed him and talked in these few verses, instead of focusing on that, always focused on the sin part. We do that though, a lot of times, don't we? We focus on the sin part and not the good parts. I might be. I almost sound like I'm a preacher this morning, stepping on toes. That's not what I'm trying to do, though. I'm not trying to step on toes. Just something to think about. Then Jesus said to her, Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. But the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father is seeking such to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth. Then the woman said to him, I know that Messiah is coming. And when he comes, he will tell us all things. So she knew he was coming. She knew. So this woman might need to give her a little bit more credit than what we've given her in the past. Because she knew. Then Jesus said to her, I who speak to you am he. In Jesus' day, Jewish rabbis held to strict culture norms when it comes to interacting with women, which we've already discussed. It was highly unusual, even frowned upon, for a rabbi to speak to a woman in public. But this encounter was even more scandalous because the woman in question wasn't just any woman. She was a Samaritan. But she's got three things going against her, if you will. One, she's a Samaritan. Two, she's a woman. And three, she's an alleged sinner. Yet Jesus talks to her. He started the conversation with her. And Jewish tradition taught that all Samaritan women were ritually unclean from birth, and they were impure. This meant that Jews, especially the religious leaders, avoided contact with Samaritans entirely, let alone a Samaritan woman. But Jesus broke these traditions in a powerful and unexpected way. He still talked to her. And do you know, this is the longest theological conversation that Jesus has with anybody in the New Testament that we read. Now we know there's much more that happened that the books can contain, but as far as the Bible goes, this is the longest theological conversation Jesus had with anybody, and it was with a woman. Any thoughts on that? He took his time and talked to her in a day when it just wasn't so. The woman then left her water pot, went her way into the city, and said to the men, "Come see a man who told me all things that I ever did. Could this be the Christ?" Then they went out of the city and came to him. I've often let me get back. Verse 39. Many of the Samaritans of that city believed in him because of the word of the woman. He told me all that I have ever done. So, when the Samaritans had come to him, they wanted him, they asked him, Jesus, to tarry. And he stayed there 2 more days. And many more believed because of his own word. I often wondered if this woman was so full of sin, how is it, and antisocial, and just all the things we've thought all this time. Why would anybody listen to her? Why would she go running to people and tell them about Jesus? Why would they listen to her if she was this terrible woman who was an outcast? I've wondered that through the years myself. Why? But I don't know, maybe because she was so changed that you could see the difference. I mean, that's a good possibility. But the fact is, she, because of her testimony, she went out and shared what happened with her. She was ministering to other people, telling them about Jesus and what he had said and done for her. She was the first person recorded in the Bible to go out and tell others that he was the Messiah, that he was the one. Any thoughts on that? And they listened. Maybe it was a huge difference in her. I don't know. You know, I guess that's, could be part of it. But I often wonder, how could she any thoughts on that? I mean, has anybody else wondered anything about that besides me? No?
Maybe she looked different.
Maybe she looked different. Yeah. Well, maybe she wasn't so bad after all. I don't know. But yes, I don't know. I know there was a change in her. I know that.
What if it was her guilt that was, like, not everybody was looking bad at her, but she felt so guilty. That's why she kept avoiding people. And then when she met him, that guilt was kind of taken away from her. And then she went to the people. So
Yeah.
She had more bravery or boldness about her that when she moved forward to speak to everybody, they could see her confidence, maybe.
I mean, there was definitely a change in her with him. When you said that, it made me think of my uncle, who was saved at a late life, and he never forgave himself. Jesus forgave him, and he was saved, but he never, ever forgave himself, and he carried that around. I remember on his deathbed, we were taking care of him, me, my sister, and mom and dad, and I remember him saying to me, I don't deserve this kind of love. And I said, yes, you do, you deserve this. But I think, maybe like you suggested, he never forgave himself. God forgave him, but he never forgave himself. Happens a lot, I think. We do carry guilt around a lot.
I've seen people who, even though, they profess to be saved, they can't let themselves participate in church or whatever because they don't feel like they're worthy of it.
And can I tell you, I didn't know that I'd be worthy to teach this morning because I didn't study like I wanted to. I sat down and studied 3 different times, and I like to study every day.
But none of us are worthy.
That's true. Yes, none of us are worthy. The devil tries to tell us that, doesn't he?
Exactly.
And convince
None of
us
us are worthy.
that we're not worthy.
Our flesh is as filthy rags. I mean, none of us are any better than anybody else.
So, anyway,
I think because we as people try to, this sin's way up here, but God sees all the sins as exactly the same.
exactly. And oh my goodness, I could talk about that forever, Patty.
Yeah,
They say one sin's not greater than the other sin, but you look down upon somebody for this sin, but the next sin ain't so bad. So
Yeah, it's like.
Yeah.
don't
we've
judge
talked. I
me
think
just
I've
because
talked
your
about
sin's
that with
different.
Jessica before. Yeah, how it's
Yeah.
just sin.
Sin is sin in God's eyes. I mean,
Regardless of what it is, big or small, it's all the same.
and we do, like you say, we do thumb our nose at people because their sin is different than ours.
Yeah.
And they don't know what our sin is, but we know what theirs are.
Oh, we think we know what they're saying.
Yeah.
We don't always know.
Yeah.
That's another tricky part. I mean, so, anyway, there's lots of things that we could cover with just this Samaritan woman. And really and truly, I mean, she's seen God. beside Jesus, and it changed her life, regardless what it was before, regardless what we know about why she had 5 husbands, or that the one she was with wasn't her husband. Regardless of all that, I think one of the questions Jamie asked is that, can you identify with this Samaritan woman in any way? Well, she asked that with every lesson. And I put yes, because I'm longing for more than this world provides. I think she was longing for more, and we long for more, you know, regardless of the state. And because of all this, there was a revival. You should call it a revival in Samaria. Jesus stayed 2 more days. So there was a revival because of the change in her life, and her running out and telling everybody, not being ashamed, not feeling guilty, feeling free and worthy. Naomi, we talked about this morning how, you know, yeah, I'm gonna pick on you. How Naomi just, what's that word we used? Confident. And then she said, no, I'm not, but confident. You can be confident because you have him in your heart and leading your life. There's confidence in that. And you don't have to, you know, shy away because you have to save it on your side. I know she's probably going to get mad at me, but I can't help it. I love her. And I want her to know this stuff. I want her, you know, this matters. Anyway, I might have to get lots of ice cream. All right, let's talk about Mary and Martha for a minute. We know a lot about Mary and Martha. Oh, any questions? Any other comments on Mary Magdalene? Okay. So we know that Jesus valued women. I mean, he's talked to, you know, this Samaritan, the woman at the well. We know he saved, or I want to keep saying saved, but you know, Mary Magdalene from her demons. So let's talk about Mary and Martha and what he does for them. We know the story of Lazarus, and how Jesus tarried a few days to go to Lazarus for the glory of God, is what he said in Scripture, that they tarried. So, tarried 2 days. That's kind of funny. He tarried 2 days with Lazarus, and he tarried 2 days with the woman at the well. Jamie, that's numbers. Jamie likes numbers, how they coincide together. Is that the right way of putting it? 2 days. Anyway, I want to go to, I just wanted a quick review because I think we all know this story real well. So Lazarus had died, Jesus arrives, and Jesus goes, you know, and the sisters are weeping, and he said to Martha, do you believe what I have said? And that, of course, was that he was the life, and that her brother would rise again. And well, she replies, I know that I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who has come into the world. So, another example of another woman who knew who was. How do you think they knew who he was, or how she knew who he was? She had followed, just like the disciples. And Lazarus, she was a follower. She was a disciple of Jesus. And she was one that supported him. And we talked about that last week too, how some of the women supported him. And we know that, I don't want to say that because I'm not one something different. But from what we can read, we are persuaded that Lazarus was well off, if you will. And, you know, there was probably support from them, financial or whatever way it was. But she knew he is the Christ, the Son of God. And then in verse 33, what we go in, I think it's John.
John 11.
Yeah, John 11. Verse 33. Do you want to read that, Patty?
When Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews also weeping, which came with her, he groaned in the spirit and was troubled, and said, Where have you laid him?
Go ahead and read through 35.
Then said unto him, Lord, and come and see. Jesus wept.
Why do you think Jesus wept?
Because I didn't believe.
Because they didn't believe? Okay. Anybody else?
Well, because he said that the sickness was not death, but it was to glorify God. But he didn't say that to Mary and Martha or the people there.
Right, he
So
said that.
they had no clue what was going to happen. So they're all thinking that he's dead. And he's been dead for, where are we at, 4 days now?
Mm-hmm.
So they can say, you know, he stinks.
Yeah.
Why do you want me to roast stone away? It stinks.
And Martha did believe that he was the Christ and the Messiah, but I mean, let's face it, had anybody ever been raised from the dead before?
No.
I mean, you know, but why, when we are, Jamie was talking a few minutes ago about grief and how you hurt, and grief and when you, especially at a funeral, if you will, it's pretty much what this is, a watch or whatever you may want to call it. Oh, sometimes, a lot of times, we're crying for the people who are suffering the greatest loss. I mean, we've had a loss too, or we wouldn't be there. But I wonder if Jesus wept because he had compassion on those who were hurting. And that maybe that's why he wept. And I heard another version of this. It's in a song. maybe Jesus wept because he didn't want to bring Lazarus back into this world. I mean, I've heard that before. I don't know. Again, you know, just that the Bible didn't say why, except that it's talking about the people all around that were weeping and grieving the loss of Lazarus. So maybe he was weeping because he had compassion on everybody else. And I think they believed, I think Martha believed. Now everybody else, I don't know. But for Martha's reply, I think she believed. She just didn't know that it meant he could raise them then. Does that make sense?
But I also think he could have been weeping with the joy that he knew he was, you know, and all of these people were about to be enlightened.
Okay, good. That's pretty good. I like that. That he was fixing to perform the greatest miracle of all. Okay.
Or he knew what this meant, like this was the start of something, because all those people were there to witness it, and he knew that the end was, you know.
Oh, that's good. There's all kinds of reasons, isn't there? Patty, I'm not picking on you. I was going to pick on Mary, because she said last week that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute or a whore. Remember when she said that? I was going to pick on her today, and she ain't here. Y'all agree with that? I'm not the only one. So I was going to pick on her. But I mean, there's many reasons. There's many reasons. I'm getting off task. But I just thought that was, you know, another example of how he, you know, and I'm sure he had compassion for Mary and Martha. That was their brother, you know, and I'm sure he was aching for them as well. And of course, we know he raised Lazarus from the dead. We used to do a play at Big Mountain, and we'd have a Lazarus, and he was a skinny young man. He was Funny, we called him Pat. He was so funny. He was real good at going, phew, phew.
I remember him.
You remember him? Okay. He would play Lazarus, okay? And he'd be in the tomb that was made. And Jesus would come to him and start talking, and you could hear, phew, phew. He wasn't supposed to be alive yet. But you'd hear, phew, phew. And then, of course, he would say, Lazarus, come forth, and he'd come pop out of there, and that wrapped up, and he'd be running. Sorry, I had to tell that story. He was a funny young man. But, he couldn't stay quiet in the tomb. So let's talk again about Mary and Martha. Another story that we're all very familiar with is them going, Jesus going to their house, their home, Lazarus' home, where they evidently, possibly, I'm going to start using my words a little bit different. But we assume that Mary and Martha lived with him. So they go there, and as many know, John chapter 12, 1 through 8. Anybody want to read?
Then Jesus, 6 days before the Passover, came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, which had been dead, whom he raised from the dead. Then they made him a supper, and Martha served, but Lazarus was one of them that sat at the table with him. Then took Mary a pound of ointment of spikenard, very costly, and anointed the feet of Jesus, and wiped his feet with her hair, and the house was filled with the odor of the ointment. Then saith one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, which should betray him, why was not this ointment sold for 300 pence and given to the poor? This he said, not that he cared for the poor, but because it was a thief. He was a thief, and had the bag and bar what was put therein. Then said Jesus, let her alone. Against the day of my burying has she kept this. For the poor always ye have with you, but me ye have not always.
So, just culture, I must note, in Jesus' time, it was expected that the high priest would anoint the Messiah upon his arrival. It was a sacred act reserved for those holding positions of power and authority within the religious hierarchy. However, in a remarkable way, Jesus allows Mary, a woman, to perform this act of anointing his feet, turning things right side up again. So Jesus again is showing that women are acceptable in worship and in praise and in ministry in whatever different ways it may be. Not one time, I mean, we kind of think he never jumped onto, and I always say their names backward or back and forth and twist and turn them around. But he never actually condemned Martha for not anointing his feet or for, what she
He knew how she liked to serve him.
thank you.
Because back whenever they was talking about how she got mad at Mary, because she was sitting at his feet, and Martha was having to serve everybody and do everything, and Mary was there. And I think he knows how we serve him best, and I think that's why he didn't chastise her for not doing that.
Thank you. I had a pastor one time tell me and my sister, he said, you two remind me of Mary and Martha, but I'm not gonna tell you who's who. I wish you would, because I want to know which one I am. But I've always wondered about that, which one he thought I was. But yeah, he accepts and he knows, you know, and this makes me think, I hope I'm not getting off, but this has made me think about Tony. He is such a giving soul. He is one of the most, and I don't really know how to say this, but unselfish person I know. Right, Naomi. I mean, really, and he gives. And I believe his calling in life is to help those in need. And specifically, I've noticed through the years that he helps women who have no good support. And I think, you know, widows or divorcee, whatever it may be, that, and it's not something all of us see or that all of us know, but that's what he does. That's how he ministers. And that, I think, is his call. Makes me think of the serving the tables of the widows and such. But, and there's different ways in which I think each of us worship too, and our gifts that we have specifically. I had somebody tell me, a good friend of mine's in hospitality. I have a lot of hospitality, inviting and asking people to come over, and I never thought of it before. You know, it was just what I did. But when she told me that, I thought, she might be onto something there. You know, so there's different ways. Again, kind of going back to what Mary said about the little things, how little things are really big things. But I just think it's remarkable, empowering maybe even, how Jesus recognized these two women and how he didn't frown upon Mary being at his feet. A couple of quotes I want to share. In a culture that regarded women as intellectually and morally inferior to men, Jesus respects women's intelligence and spiritual capacity, as is evident in the great spiritual truths he teaches to women, such as the Samaritan woman and Martha. Jesus dismantled cultural barriers and questioned societal norms, affirming the inherent worth of every woman that he encountered. And then another quote that was shared said, Luke's picture of Mary sitting at Jesus' feet in the posture of a disciple has been called perhaps the strongest and clearest affirmation on the part of Jesus that the intellectual and spiritual life was just as proper to women as to men. And this was said by Leonard Swinburne. I don't really know who it was, if he was an author. But that pretty much sums up Jesus' esteem for these women that we've been studying about, and especially for this week, women in the New Testament. I don't know. We don't know what. We don't always know what we're called to do, we're called to be, but we know we have Jesus. We know he's with us. We know he loves us. He loves each and every one of us the same. There's no, I don't think there's no regard for disregard because we're female or male or whatever it may be. I think it's just an amazing truth how Jesus esteemed and loved women. When you read and you study on this. Jamie has taught me so much in reading this book, in reading scripture, and studying. I don't know, it's just, I don't know for you ladies, but to me it was very eye-opening, you know, and very, what's that, encouraging, very, I don't know, maybe stand a little bit taller. I mean, that's a good way of putting it. But he loves us. He loves us one and all the same. Does anybody have any questions? Or any comments or anything you want to add? Naomi's. Anybody? Well, ladies, somebody got to say something.
I think it's very enlightening to know that we are important.
Enlightening. Thank you. I don't know if I used that word, but that's perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
You know, to do something where, you know, women were, you know, prominent women, but also the women that we don't really think about had their effect, and their stories in the Bible.
And their ministries.
Because, you know, I think if your name is mentioned in the Bible, it's there for a reason.
Yes. Yes, and Jamie touches on that a lot.
Yes.
If your name is in there, and if there's stories in there, especially in a time we know that was all men power, if you want to put it simple, and there's women mentioned when it was all men power, how much more important does that make it seem? You know, when you think about that, the things we learned last week about the view of women from powerful men. So, yeah. And that he talked to them, that Jesus talked to them, just like he talked to his 12 disciples and the other people. Yeah. Anybody else?
So I was kind of thinking about some things.
Speak up a little bit.
Back when I was at Rome State, I was in solo class. And I had to get up in front of our classroom at least twice a year for a semester and sing what song I've learned in my voice lessons or whatever you were taking. And I would walk in like this and hunch down and real timid and real scared, and I wouldn't speak up and I wouldn't talk loud enough for people to hear, and then when I'd sing, it wasn't good. My voice instructor, love her to death, had told me, she said, Jamie, you deserve to be up there just as much as all these other people that get up and sing. You deserve to be up there just as much as they are. And that still sits with me today, that I'm just as worthy as anybody else in here. We're all just as worthy as the next person. So yes, we do get to do these things. Yeah.
That's a good point, especially after talking about maybe the guilt that was carried. Worthy. That's good instructions, Jamie. That was good. Your instructor took that was.
She was great. She helped me a lot. I learned a lot from her.
Anybody else? Before we sit down and pray, we've got one more lesson. And we can do that either next Sunday or we'd have to do it sometime in July to come back. Of course, next Sunday's Father's Day. Bible school all week and all that, so it don't matter. We could do 8 next week, and then I thought we could come back in July and do like a big old overview or something. Or we can just wait and do 8 after everything. It's whatever y'all want to do, it don't matter to me.
Don't make no difference to me.
Huh,
Don't make no difference to me.
it don't matter.
I said we wait. I come back on cheer on Saturday, I'm not gonna be in a good mood on Sunday, just tell you.
Well, and that's, I mean, it don't matter to me, so, but if y'all wanna wait, we can wait, it don't matter. Is that what everybody wants to do? Yes?
I'm out of town next week, so yeah.
Okay, okay. And I was trying to avoid getting into all that too, because I know people's going, but I won't be here the 28th, and I probably won't be here the 5th, because we'll be coming back on the 4th. So I probably won't be here that Sunday either.
I won't be here on the 5th either.
So, the earliest would be the next Sunday, which is what?
12,
What?
July 12, yeah.
Oh,
Why are you saying, oh,
Yeah, well, you should,
but I should be fine,
I think, okay,
and we don't even know for sure. It's gotta go through all the proper avenues.
okay.
you won't be out of here.
Y'all wanna do,
You
what?
won't be there.
I won't be here on the 12th.
You won't be here.
Y'all don't hold up on that. How about the 19th? 19th, I'm clear.
19th sound good? Okay, and we'll talk more later. There's a lot going on, which is a good thing, and I know it's that time of year, so. All right, y'all wanna come down here? Well,